Greetings, members of the body of Christ. You'll see that in one day, I shared a lot of dreams. I'm trying to catch up on dreams that I should have posted. Um, so I'm going to share another dream with you. Again, it's a dream that has to do with science, that or symbolism that involves the sky. Um, so in this dream, I was at a place that looked like a guest cottage, um, in somebody's yard. Like it didn't feel like it was directly the main house, but connected to the main house, but for guests. And I felt like I was a guest there. And the dream opens with me in that guest room, and the guest room has the one side of it is just solid like glass doors and glass windows. The whole side is sort of made up of a lot of glass, so it's completely, the outside is completely visible. And that side looked to the garden, to a patio, and then like the garden that had a pool. And there were people who were standing there in the patio. They were wearing white t-shirts and blue jeans mostly. Again, if you understand some of the symbolic colors, um, white speaking to righteousness and purity, garments of white that Jesus refers to, and blue speaking to issues of royalty, and so on. So we they were wearing white tops and blue jeans. I didn't necessarily know them, though I felt familiar, but I didn't necessarily have any sort of close, direct relationship with them. Um, and I was in this cottage or room, and I was actually busy packing. I had my clothes, and I was packing into a suitcase. And I become aware that something's happening behind me. So I turn around. So I had my back turned to that glass door and the people standing on the patio. So I turned around, because I sensed that something's happening behind me. And when I turned around, I looked into the sky and I saw a something that looked like wind and cloud and fire all mixed up in one. And it was like a sheet just swooping across the sky, just like across the sky. Um, it was it was a mighty force, mighty wind, and it was fiery and it was cloudy and it felt dark once again. I knew that it was something dark, or evil, or um, could cause death or could cause serious detriment. Um, so when I saw this coming, I became aware that okay, something's really bad about this, and I started running. So I had turned around and I turned back in the direction I was originally facing, and I'm trying to run. But before I had turned, I recognized that it had hit already the place where we were, and it tossed the people that were standing on the patio. Um, oh, in the process, I forgot to say I had managed to close the door, so that the door that would give access into the place where I was, I had closed it before I turned around to run because I think I was trying to protect myself somehow. But I did notice before I turned around that the people on the patio had been tossed. They'd been completely, like it had picked them up and thrown them against walls, and they'd been completely tossed by this wind, hurt in some fashion. Though I didn't get to see, how hurt or what became of them. But and I had started now running in the opposite direction, trying to run away from this thing. And the only I became aware, even though I couldn't see it because I was now not facing it, but that it was on me as well. It had now reached me where I was, but it was sort of something that was happening above us, not sort of here in our at our height, as it were, but it was happening above us. So in my awareness of that it's upon me, I bent down, and I was still trying to run, but I was bent over, and I felt that it passed over me, but the heat I could feel. If you felt like fire, if you get too close to fire or to a hot stove or anything like that, and you feel the heat against the side of your body, or your against your skin, I felt that heat. It was a very powerful searing heat, and I felt it over my back because I was bent over, and I felt it pass over my back like that. Um, and it was very quick. It's just passed over, but I knew that I had just escaped, almost escaped by the skin of my teeth. That's how it felt. And I had escaped by bending over, almost humbling myself or something like that to it. Or not to it per se, but in the midst of that situation. So I knew immediately after I had experienced that, and I was aware that it had passed over. I then knew that I needed to get back home. I needed to get back from this place where I was visiting. Needed to pack my clothes really fast, and I needed to get back home, to where my family and my husband and kids were. Um, yeah, so I mean that whole theme um, around this mighty, clearly another wind that had a life of some sort, that had power, that carried some form of power, and carried destructive power. And the fact that it passed over, it really hit me when I realized this dream, in view of the time that we have gone through with the COVID-19 lockdowns, and some of the things that God had spoken to us at the beginning around being passed over, and this theme around me needing to go back to be with my family, considering that some of what has been God's children have been hearing around restoring of families during this time, and our own family being encouraged to partake in daily communion and fellowship with as a family. These are things that were I didn't when we heard about the communion. I didn't even remember. I remember the dream afterwards and realized the relationship between the two. Um, but it felt like this issue of the Passover, of the Jews in Egypt, um, and it resonated very much with the things that God spoke now this year at the very beginning of the lockdown that happened in South Africa, where we are. Again, um, any hearing. I know that oftentimes suitcases and things like that speak to individual or personal journeys, but I did feel like there was an element of my personal journey, but it also spoke to anyone who would be under such a circumstance, who needed to come back from wherever maybe they were distracted, maybe, or wherever they were amongst in the wrong company or anything like that, and be restored to their family, number one. Number two, to be in the place where they would, because it felt like I needed to get back to that place in order to be safe. That I wasn't going to be safe in this place, in that environment where I was, that guest cottage place. I know that I've been through a bit of a battle in terms of my personal journey, and so I'm happy, to accept it being personal to that extent. But I do believe that the language in the dream and the relevance to other people is still there, or that other people would also glean from it is still there. Yeah, so if you hear anything, if you want to add, or any of your hearing or understanding of the dream, please feel free to do so. Be blessed.